Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back here on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. Obviously, missing Andre today. I think he's running into some technical issues, so we're going to try to get back to it here in a little bit. But I wanted to go ahead and get started just in case and get everything moving and grooving here, as they like to say. So, big thing here going on. Obviously, hope everything is going well for you, everybody, this week. Been a great week for me, honestly. Lots to look forward to. We got football season right around the corner. Things are heating up. There's a lot of speculation about what's going to happen and how things are going to go. So just really excited to look forward to that. So appreciate everybody tuning in and how everything's going here. Yeah, I mean, who knows what Duke's doing, but I think he's having some technical issues. So with today's show, I want to jump in and just talk about some things that are going on at Notre Dame. And there's some stats that I have that I think, we want to jump into. Is Marcus Freeman on the hot seat, which is a question that I'll touch on a little bit later in the show. But there's a lot of, schedule releases, things like that going on. So obviously week 1, Texas A&M, we've talked about it a lot on this show and talked about how big of a game that's going to be. It comes out a couple days ago that it's going to be the ABC night game, 7:30 p.m. Going to be College Gameday is going to be there. So taking a look at that, I mean, how does College Gameday impact the experience, impact what the team is doing? So just to give you a background on College Gameday. So Notre Dame played in College Gameday. 1993 was their first one against Florida State, 1v2. Notre Dame won that one. To go 1-0. So great start for their College Gameday career. But when you look at it, you break it down by school, obviously College Gameday doesn't really have an impact on the game or what's going to happen. But it does add to the environment, right? You got people there at 9 a.m. tailgating. It's going to be a 7:30 p.m. kickoff at Kyle Field. It's going to be absolutely wild. And so you're going to have a lot of people. You're going to have a lot of atmosphere. And so how does each program deal with that atmosphere? Well, Notre Dame's been in the College Gameday games either at home or a part of a game 35 times. Their record's 15-20. So losing record there, not ideal. A lot of big wins, a lot of big losses too. Obviously, most recently you had the Ohio State losses back-to-back years on game day, which doesn't lead well. Obviously, Marcus Freeman's 0-2 on game day. Not great. Don't love that. However, Texas A&M fucking sucks on game day. All right, they're 1-8. They're 1-8 on game day games. So take it for what it's worth. Obviously, it's not worth a whole lot. But, however, 1-8, their one win being 2016 versus Tennessee, 45-38. They won it in pretty spectacular fashion. But they had 4 games, I believe, when Johnny Manziel was there, and they couldn't get it done with Johnny Football. So I think that leads to good news for the Irish. Obviously, I've broken down that game a couple different times. There's a lot going on with it. I think Notre Dame has the better roster when you compare them apples to apples. They have a regime that's been there for a couple years, so you're going to have more continuity. Texas A&M's going through a big change in their head coach, obviously. Mike Elko is an excellent football coach, so I don't doubt that he will have them ready to go, which he definitely will. However, it's going to be game 1, year 1 for Mike Elko at Texas A&M. They're dealing with a whole host of issues from Jimbo Fisher's tenure there, paying players and really failing at paying players, like recruiting really high level players, but not getting anything out of them. So Texas A&M Notre Dame week 1. Really excited for that game. Unfortunately, don't think I'll be able to tune in or be at the game, but I'll definitely be tuning in. Which leads to another discussion. So Texas A&M, Notre Dame, that's going to set the tone for the entire season for Notre Dame. How week 1 goes will determine how the season goes. If week 1 doesn't go well, they have 3 or 4 other games that are losable. If week 1 goes well, I think they have 1 or 2 that are losable. And so that brings up the topic of, should Marcus Freeman be feeling any pressure right now? I think the answer is yes. And the reason I think the answer is yes is this. 12,917 days. That's how long it's been since Notre Dame won a national championship. 12,917 days. Now, to put that in perspective, Ohio State, 3,411 days. Michigan, obviously, 125 days or something stupid like that, which, put an asterisk on that. But regardless, 12,917 days. That's how long it has been since Notre Dame won a national championship. Essentially, that's how long it's been since Notre Dame has been truly relevant in college football. 12,917 days. I say that because another 108 days. That's how long it is until Notre Dame takes on Texas A&M August 31st at 7:30 p.m. Almost exactly 108 days from now. And the reason that's important is because Marcus Freeman has 108 days to get this program into a position to compete for a national championship, or else he might be looking for another job. So here's why I think that. I think Marcus Freeman's an excellent football coach. He was a great player at Ohio State. He was a great defensive coordinator for a couple years, and I think he is truly a really good coach and could be really great. There are 5 things that I've noticed over the past 2 years with Notre Dame that need to be corrected immediately, and they're going to be tested week 1 against Texas A&M, which is why he has 108 days to clear his name off the hot seat. The number one thing, the offense has to put up points. And I don't mean put up points like they did last year, putting up 39 points per game. That's an excellent stat. Now, take away all the bad defenses they faced. How'd they do on offense? They faced 3 good defenses, averaged 19 points a game. So, you're going to have to put up points against good defenses. I don't think Texas A&M's defense is going to be elite, but it's going to be much better than a lot of the defense you're going to face all year. So probably one of the top 3 that you'll face, maybe top 5 at minimum. So you got to go out there and you have to be able to put up points against a decent defense. I don't care that you can put up 50 on the Sisters of the Poor, or you can put up 35 on USC. I don't care. What do you do against Ohio State? Right? Obviously, this year they don't play on, but you get the point. So putting up 19 on Ohio State, or maybe it was only 10. I don't even remember. Anyways, that's not exceptional. That's not good enough. You got to put up points against good defenses. Enough points to win the game, which we'll circle back to because the defense has to step up as well. But the defense has been the strongest part of this team for the past 5 years. Number two thing they got to do, which they have to do week one. Again, this is why I bring up 108 days. Week one, they have to go on the road, a true road game. It's not one of these neutral site bullshit fucking bowl game atmospheres. This is a true road game to Kyle Field. You have to learn how to win on the road. I let me repeat that. You have to learn how to win on the road. Whatever you have been doing has not worked when you face anything decent on opposition. They lost to Louisville and Clemson on the road last year. They could have lost to Duke. They could have lost to a couple other programs and probably should have to Duke, but they didn't. But my point is, Louisville and Clemson, they didn't even look like they wanted to be there. And I know Louisville was the fourth or fifth back-to-back night game, whatever excuse you want to have. You have to learn how to travel. And you have to know how to go on the road and beat teams you're supposed to beat. If you lose to an Ohio State on the road like you did 2 years ago, okay, I'm fine with that. That's a team that you probably shouldn't beat. I mean, you should compete, which they did. You should be in it at the end, which they were. But if you lose it on the road, I'm good. Now, you got to win it at home the next year. But, again, what? So, winning games on the road has to be a non-negotiable. I agree Marcus is a good coach. I believe I said that. But this is Notre Dame. We don't have time. Time is, I go back to it, 12,917 days since they won a national title. There's no time for this. Number 3, 5 things they need to do if they are going to compete for a national title and Marcus Freeman's going to keep his job. Number 3, they need more explosive plays on offense. That offense last year was good, not great. Explosive plays break the game. They need to go out there and they need to put up big-time numbers on big-time downs. You don't have to go out there and average 20 yards a catch. You don't have to go out there but when they need a big play, they need somebody to step up and make it. Now, Audric Estime was pretty good at that as a running back, but they need this wide receiver core to develop, and they need to figure it out and get some big plays from their offense. That defense is not going to be able to carry the offense. It's just not going to happen. Now, they're going to be able to support the offense, but Riley Leonard is going to have to put them in a position to win games. That's just what if Notre Dame wants any chance, that's what has to happen. You can look at Ohio State last year. That defense carried Ohio State. Kyle McCord could not put them in a position to win the games they needed to win in order to be a playoff team. This year it's a little different, 12-team playoff, but Riley Leonard needs to be the type of quarterback to put them in the position to get it done. The next thing that I'll say, and this is number 4, right? I mean, the defense has to show up in big moments. Now, the defense has been great at Notre Dame over the past 5 years, 3 years at least. Defense has been really good. Why did they lose to Louisville? Why did they lose to Clemson? Why did they lose to Ohio State? Ohio State, they had done. Dead to rights, done. If they could get Ohio State off the field. And I live in Columbus. Unfortunately, I'm subjected to Ohio State a whole lot. That offense was not prolific. That offense was not anything that a defense with the caliber of Notre Dame couldn't get off the field. Hell, if the safety could catch a goddamn football, it would have been over. But beyond that, the defense couldn't make key stops in key moments. The defense was great as a whole. Over the course of a 4-quarter game, they were great. But in the key moments, they couldn't get off the field when they needed to. So they absolutely have to shore that up this year if they want to compete for anything. And number 5, the last thing they need to do if they want to actually compete this year for any sort of championship, any sort of playoff run, anything. And this is why, if these 5 things don't happen, Marcus Freeman will be on the hot seat. Because the number 5 thing they need to do, Marcus Freeman has to stop making rookie mistakes. I get it. He's a first-time head coach. Buddy, this is year 3. It's time to get past that. It's time to get on from that. You can't make the mistakes that you made in year 1 and year 2 and continue to use those as excuses. Having 10 players on the field on the last play of the game on defense is not an acceptable thing anymore. It wasn't acceptable last year, but we moved on from it. But if you are going to be the head football coach at a school like Notre Dame, you cannot act like a new coach. You got to hold yourself accountable and everybody around you accountable. If they can't get the right people on the field, you need to get them out. Now, I think we've made some improvements with Mike Denbrock and some of the coaching changes that we've made. But I'm just saying, the new head coach mistakes have to be completely gone this year. They have to be. That is the only way you are going to have any sort of success as a program. So those are the 5 things I think Notre Dame needs to do in order to not only make the college football playoff, but actually be relevant in it. Because I think their schedule lines up enough. As long as they don't get blown out week 1 by Texas A&M, they'll probably make the playoff just because of the schedule they have, and it's 12 teams. But if they go into the playoff as a 10 seed and they get blown out real early, that's not a success to me. I need them to get to the round of, I guess, what is it, 8? Yeah, I think the round of 8 is the expectation. It should be. Obviously, they can't get a bye, so they're going to have to win a game in the playoffs to get there, which is something they've never done. This is obviously a different playoff. But in order for that to happen, those 5 things have to happen. You have to have points versus good defenses, because when you get to the playoffs, there's going to be good defenses. You're going to have to score. You're going to have to learn how to win on the road, because you have a couple road games, albeit very early in week 1, that you're going to have to win. Number 3, you have to get some explosive plays on offense. This wide receiving core that I'm very nervous about and not very high on needs to step up and be something more than what it has been. Number 4, the defense has to make key stops. The defense has to get off the field in key moments to get the ball back to the offense if you're trailing, or to get the ball back to the offense if you're winning to ice the game. The defense has to do that. That is, bar none, got to happen. And number 5, Marcus Freeman has to show a level up. He has to show a level up as a head coach to the point where he's not making these mistakes that he's made over the past 2 years. You can't be losing to Marshall at home. You can't be running 10 people on the field in the last game or the last play of the game against Ohio State when you need to stop. You can't be making these mistakes. It can't happen. If it happens, that's a you problem. And that's why I'm telling you, if these 5 things don't happen, Marcus Freeman should be squarely on the hot seat, because it's no longer a talent issue. It's no longer a recruiting issue. If those 5 things don't happen, it is 100% a preparation and coaching issue. That's it. The only one of those 5 things that you could maybe tie back to talent is explosive plays on offense, because you don't have dynamic athletes. Outside of that, getting the defense off the field in big moments. That's 100% just coaching, scheme, everything. Getting points versus good offenses, again, coaching, scheme. Road losses, preparation. New head coach's mistakes, obviously that's coaching. So those are the things that he has to do if he wants to make this team relevant, if he wants to make this team successful, and if he wants to keep this job. I think Duke is finally jumping on with us here, so let's add him to the mix. I appreciate you guys staying on with me and listening to me rant for a little bit there. Duke,
what's up, Carter?
What's up, man?
Oh man, same old, fun times.
Yeah, everything good? You good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm glad you could jump on here. I apologize. I just kind of went on a little bit of a rant there and took care of it for a little bit and really put Marcus Freeman on notice, honestly.
Right.
But so, I mean, kind of run what I talked about a little bit and just kind of, if you have anything to add, and then we can jump into one of the things I wanted to talk about, which we can get into here in a little bit, is Marcus Freeman. Obviously, I just told you what Marcus Freeman needs to do in order to keep his job, in my opinion. But where does Marcus Freeman stack up against other Power 5 coaches? That's something that I think is an interesting topic that we can get to in a minute. But Duke, I don't know if you had a minute to kind of listen to what I was saying, but basically the 5 things that Notre Dame needs to do to change their trajectory and to keep Marcus Freeman off the hot seat is they have to score points against big time defenses, right? They have to be able to go out there and put up points because they averaged 19 points a game against their 3 toughest defenses last year. Number 2, they have to learn how to go on the road and not lose. They lost to Louisville and Clemson on the road last year. They almost lost to Duke. They just can't go on the road and win games. Number 3, we need more explosive plays on offense. Obviously, some of that is athletes, and hopefully this wide receiver core and these running backs can provide a spark. Number 4, the defense has to get off the field in the big moments. They got to be able to get key stops. And number 5, we can't have any more coaching mistakes. Marcus Freeman needs to go out there and show that he is the type of coach that he is paid to be. So those are just to catch you up. Those are the 5 things that I said need to change. Thoughts on that?
We'll start number 1. The points against good defense that has held him back in the past. I mean, Ohio State's the 2 years that they played Ohio State, I would say Ohio State had a top 50 defense. Mm-hmm. And I think the offensive struggles come on. Well, when you had Tommy Rees and Parker the last 2 years, I don't think you're asking for much. And an interesting stat that I found that I believe I heard it from Chris was, do you know the last Notre Dame quarterback to win a NFL game was?
I'm going to guess Brady Quinn.
In 2012.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I believe that. I mean, hey, he's probably the last Notre Dame quarterback to be drafted, right?
Jimmy Clausen was drafted.
Oh, Clausen, yeah, I forgot about Clausen. Okay, yeah.
But I think it's a double-edged sword when it comes to the Notre Dame offense. The last we can go post Kelly. Some people say that the cupboard was dry when Marcus Freeman took over. I don't think he's had great quarterbacks. He
definitely hasn't. He hasn't had great quarterbacks. He's brought in Sam Hartman and Riley Leonard the past 2 years because of that. However, I'm not holding that. I mean, I'm not excusing that. You still have to be able to put up points, or else you're not going to win games.
Well, the big thing, when you break that down, as far as points, you've had no continuity on the offensive side of the football as far as coordinator, quarterback. You're essentially a really good defense with a kind of a Frankenstein offense. When it comes to offensive play, it's just not it's not just plug and play. You just can't bring in a new coordinator every single year and a new quarterback every single year and expect the same result. You're going to struggle at times. I mean, you completely went on the road at Louisville and crapped down your leg.
Yeah,
So,
no, and I agree with that. However, there is something about if you average. I mean, last year they averaged 40 points a game, 39 points per game, which is, I mean, that was a very nice stat, a great offense, allegedly. Obviously, a lot of that was rushing based. However, you can't average 39 points per game over a season and then average 19 points per game against your three toughest defenses. Like you have to be more, because that means you're actually averaging like 50 points a game against shitty people, but at 19 points a game against the tough ones, and then it averages out. So they can score and they can make plays and they can do things. It's just you have to and that's why I'm telling you, it comes down to coaching. The talent is, maybe there is a little bit of a talent gap at certain positions against certain teams. I'm not going to disagree with that. But the talent gap isn't wide enough that if you have exceptional coaches like Ohio State and Notre Dame last year. Now, granted, I think Ohio State's talent was far exceptional to Notre Dame's. I think their quarterback play and some of their coaching brought them back to Notre Dame's level. But the talent gap wasn't that big on defense versus offense. Like the wide receivers got open, they made plays. I mean, most of it was the running game, but there's a coaching aspect to it, which maybe, I mean, hopefully Mike Denbrock's the answer, and that's kind of the issue, was you didn't have a coordinator. You had Marcus, who's a defensive head coach, who's trying to figure it out and plug and play. But I just think you have to be able to score no matter who you're playing. Obviously, your points per game are going to go down against good defenses. That's expected. They're good defenses, but to have a 20-point differential between your average and your average against good defenses, that's too big.
Yeah, it's far and away too big of an issue. But the one thing I will ask you when it comes to that, when it comes to closing the talent gap, I'm not going to argue with the defensive side of the ball, but can any of these wide receivers that are sitting in that wide receiver room right now at Notre Dame even get on the field as wide receiver 5 for Ohio State? And my answer is no. And they couldn't get on the field at running back.
I think they could get on the field at running. I mean, okay. I think they could get on the field at running back. They wouldn't be the top 2, but I think they could get on the field. No, you're right. I mean, none of these receivers are. I mean, just looking at the receivers, none of the receivers are going to. No, I mean, yeah, Micah Gilbert maybe sees the field in a couple years, but nobody's seeing the field this year. No, and I don't mean the talent gap position to position, like the same position. I guess what I mean by that is the talent gap of Notre Dame's offense versus Ohio State's defense wasn't that massive.
Ohio State had Kyle McCord running the show also, which
I understand that. I mean, Sam Hartman wasn't that much better, but
I think Sam Hartman will stick around in the NFL longer than Kyle McCord. I don't think he'll get a sniff, but that's
we'll just see. Me. But what I'm saying is that game, you could tell that there might have been a talent gap at certain specific skill positions, but overall the talent gap wasn't that big. Otherwise, the game would have gone a completely different way. And yeah, wide receiver, huge talent gap, wide receiver to wide receiver, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Running back, I don't think is as big as you think it is. I mean, I think this year it probably is. Last year it was not.
Yeah. And let me address I think when it comes to the differences in Ohio State because I would say Ohio State's the cream right now. Georgia's the cream. Those are the top two. Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, top 3 programs in the nation.
Probably, yeah, I agree.
I would just say that Georgia is getting the old Urban Meyer adage. Their 5 stars don't look like our 5 stars. Does that make sense? Especially at wide receiver.
Wait, say that again.
Like, if you walk into the receiver room at Ohio State and look at the guys in there, and you walk in to Notre Dame, it's totally different.
Well, okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying, but the difference is Notre Dame doesn't have 5 stars. So you're right. Their 5 stars don't look like Notre Dame's 5 stars because Notre Dame doesn't have any. So I agree, but that's a huge talent gap that needs to be closed. I agree.
And like at Ohio State just keeps reloading every single year, especially they've got that pipeline through South Florida Express, and I don't know how you keep up with the Joneses when it comes to that, because
and the thing is and what people need to understand, and I think this is what is that Notre Dame's not trying to keep up with Ohio State at wide receiver recruiting. Like they have no desire to do that. That's never gonna pan out. That's never gonna work. You have to find good talent that you can recruit, and most of it's going to come from the West Coast. Honestly, you're not going to go down to South Florida. You're not going to go into Texas and get a whole lot. Most of it's going to come from LA, the California area. You're going to get some talent from there, and you're going to have to play that, hope it pans out. You're going to have to get some quarterback talent that pans out in recruiting, but Notre Dame, don't think for a minute that Notre Dame is in an arms race against Ohio State or Georgia. That's not what we're doing. Like Notre Dame is taking more of the Michigan approach, where we're going to get the talent we can get at those skill positions, but we're going to be really fucking good on defense. We're going to be really fucking good on the offensive line. We're going to be able to run the ball. And, it might not work every year, but if it works once, we're happy.
Employ Connor Stallions.
Well, I mean, they're not doing that, but I think even if you look at Michigan last year, Michigan was probably the best team in the country, no matter what any of that shit. They had the best front 7 on offense and defense. They had a running game that was impeccable. I mean, if you look at it, they were a very good team, even without all of that other nonsense. Now, Notre Dame is going to try to recruit some high-level talent on the outside. It's just never going to be to Ohio State, Georgia levels. That's just I mean, at least not right now. Unless something changes, unless things get crazy, unless, revenue sharing, whatever. I mean, eventually maybe it is, but I don't think that's the blueprint. And I don't think that's what Marcus is trying to do.
Right. I agree with you on that. And also his road losses, I think his worst loss on the road was probably the Louisville game.
I think Clemson was worse.
You think so?
I mean, Louisville went to the ACC title game. They were actually a decent program. Clemson was fucking like 4-5 at the time.
Yeah, Dabo and the Cousins didn't have it figured out at that time.
No, but you see the name Clemson and you see the name Louisville and you're like, oh, that's a worse loss. But Louisville was actually good. Like they were a solid team. And not to lean into excuses, but that was, I think, the 4th or 5th night game in a row and every week it was Notre Dame, Ohio State, and then it was Notre Dame, somebody else at 7:30, Notre Dame, Duke on the road, and then Louisville on the road. And it was like 4 weeks in a row of 7:30 kickoffs, 3 of which were on the road. And it's like, man, fuck us, right?
Well, and
But they got fucked. I mean, they got pummeled. So,
but that's also comes with the territory of being.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to wear the blue and gold, if you want to have this ND on your chest, I mean, you got to be ready to play some primetime games, baby. Everybody you play wants you on their network because the ratings. That's what happens. It's the same thing at Ohio State. Now, the good thing for Ohio State is they partnered with Fox, who has a hard on for noon games, so you don't have to play night games that often. But I mean, that's just that just comes with the territory. Which and it's no excuse. All right, absolutely no excuse. I mean, that's just something you have to get better at.
And I really think on the defensive side of things that they really haven't figured out, and I think Notre Dame's going to probably be a top 5 unit again this year.
Yeah, I agree, and they were last year. The only thing that I will say is they struggled getting off the field at the end of games and in the big moments where they needed to stop. They struggled to come up with them, and that's not a stat that is easily trackable. I'm sure there's analytics out there somewhere that you could find, but it's not going to show up in the points per game or in the yards per game given up, because you could give up 100 yards, but if at the end of the fourth quarter it's 3rd and 4 and you need to stop to prevent them from scoring and winning, you might give up 5 yards, and it's only 5 yards on your yards per game, but those 5 yards could cost you the game.
And also have your 3 technique on the field at the end of the game versus Ohio
State.
Yeah,
that's number 5, man. You can't be making those coaching mistakes. You can't have 10 guys on the field, which has been so overblown and talked about. I understand. I mean, it happens. It's not, nobody wants it to happen, but it happens. But there have been so many different things over the last 2 years that have just shown that maybe there is a little bit attention to detail issue. And if you want to take that next step, if you want to win games, if you want to compete for titles, if you want to be the head coach that I believe Marcus Freeman wants to be, you have to get rid of all those attention to detail mistakes. I don't care what you do in life, dude. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do in life. If you don't have extreme attention to detail, you will never be successful. There is nothing in life that you can half-ass. There is nothing in life that you can do that you can let the little things slide. You can't do it. It's impossible. So if Marcus Freeman wants to be a successful head coach in college football, if Marcus Freeman wants to take Notre Dame to the place that they haven't been in 12,917 days and hoist a national title trophy, his attention to detail has to be immaculate.
And, I don't think we've ever seen this in college football. Marcus Freeman, first-time head coach, University of Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Ryan Day, first-time head coach, University of Ohio State. Mm-hmm. These guys, and
Sharon Moore, first-time head coach, University of Michigan.
There are so many guys that are getting a first-time head coaching job at major universities. Mm-hmm. And people, the fan bases want to freak out on some of the certain things, but you got to give. I'm not saying give Marcus Freeman a complete hall pass, but I'm just saying on some things you could have hired PJ Fleck, and he would have fired him a year ago, and the program would have been in disarray.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not an indictment on the program. That's more of a, hey, good job realizing that was a worse hire. I mean, but you could have gotten an established coach. I agree, but you believed in this guy. I understand that. However,
because
as somebody that has hired, fired, has promoted, has dealt with a lot of people in an employment setting, in athletics, and whatever it is, if I hire you for a job, the expectation is for you to do that job. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your experience. If I'm hiring you for that job and you accept me hiring you for that job, you accept the responsibility that comes with being the head coach of Notre Dame. And that responsibility is that you are going to conduct yourself in a professional manner. You are going to conduct yourself in a way that is going to represent the university's morals and values, and you are going to put a certain level of product on the field. Now, did I make a mistake by hiring you too quickly? If you don't do that, maybe. But that doesn't mean my expectations should change. I don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt because they have less experience. If they have less experience, then I shouldn't have hired them if that was what was expected of them, is that my expectations would lower. My expectations stay the same. I don't care who you are.
Uh, I just feel like there's a little bit of a youth movement going on throughout college football, the hiring at major programs, because if you look at the three major programs we talked about, Marcus
Yeah.
Freeman, Sharon Moore, and Ryan Day,
Yeah.
for the most part are all under
Lincoln
the
Riley at Oklahoma before he went to USC, and then obviously USC. But yeah, no, I know what. Yeah, I mean, there's a youth movement going on, and everybody wants to find the next Sean McVay, the next shiny thing, and I get that. But as a booster or an alumni, that's not my fucking problem, dude.
Not,
Like, I'm
right.
sorry.
But and also to a certain point, I don't want to see a bunch of retreads either, like the NFL.
No. Although, if I'm Notre Dame, I wouldn't mind seeing a retread if his name's Urban Meyer.
That guy is different. But
I'm kidding. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Just whatever. But what I'm saying is, I agree. I understand that you maybe want to be a little more lenient. You want to give them a little more time because, and that's also, but that's what you have to evaluate with any hiring and firing, right? If I'm going to fire Billy Napier, let's go Billy Napier, for example, at Florida. Okay. He's probably getting fired this year. There is, I would put it at 95% chance he gets fired. And it's not because he's not a decent coach or he can't get it done. It's mostly because their schedule is just fucking brutal. Like, he could lose 7 games, and that would be actually kind of impressive. But he's a, but do you give him another year? Like, he could be a really good coach, and maybe if you gave him more time, he could be as successful as an Urban Meyer. But how much time are you going to waste on that? And that's where it gets tricky.
Here's the caveat that I'll add to that. The University of not Georgia, Florida could be better than what they were last year, but their record will not reflect that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yeah. They'll have a worse record this year than last year, but they could be a better team. I agree. Yeah.
And you look at the schedule, like they got Florida State. I believe they have Miami. It's not.
They have. I mean, just
an absolute gauntlet.
They go. I'll have to pull it up. Hold on, but they go like LSU, Texas, Alabama, Georgia. Like, it's just.
I know the last 6 games on his schedule are like.
Yeah. Here you go. It goes. So, last game's Florida State. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, the last 5 games. I mean, even if you want to go games, 7 games are Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State.
That's not good.
And they have Miami week 1 and Texas A&M week 3. So that's literally, I mean, they're going to lose to Georgia. They'll probably split with Kentucky and Tennessee. Lose to Texas, lose to LSU, lose to Ole Miss, lose to Florida State. So that's that's 6 losses in the last 7 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's still not as bad as Colorado losing the last 8 of the
Yeah,
last
well,
9, but
Florida's not Colorado, buddy. They expect a little more.
eh,
But yeah, no, but I mean, and I mean, maybe they win more. I don't know. They could win. Best case scenario, they go like 4-3, which would be an incredible feat, and I would give Napier an extension if that happened.
if here's a caveat. If Billy Napier somehow miraculously goes 6-6 with that schedule,
He's fired.
I I almost think Florida is going to fire him no matter what.
I mean, unless he goes 8-4. If he goes 8-4 with that schedule, absolutely give him another year. 7-5, even I might consider. I mean, it depends on what Florida's AD and president think about the schedule. Because if Billy Napier has been any sort of self-preservation in his bones, he has been going to them like, dude, I know this year's going to be rough. All right, I'm going to be starting a freshman quarterback. In all likelihood, I'm going to be starting a freshman quarterback. That's rough in general. And then you just look at these last 7 games, and it's going to be tough. I mean, hopefully, I have him going by then, and he's good to go. But we might lose 3 or 4 of those. So, but trust me, this freshman quarterback is going to be really good. We just need to keep him, and then we'll be good in a couple years, like 2 years. Give me 2 years, and if he's done that, and he's able to deliver on maybe going 7-5, 8-4, they might keep him. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll probably fire him and throw a Hail Mary at whoever.
Well, the crazy thing is that the Florida Gator fans do have Billy Napier fired before the season already starts.
Yeah. I mean, they have most of their coaches fired before the season starts. I can't tell you the number of times that Urban was fired before the season started.
Right, which he won 2 natties and they still wanted to fire him. So,
Mm-hmm.
with all that being said, it's not like their expectations are too high or anything.
Right.
But when you have a program like the University of Florida, they want to win,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to fire Billy Napier. Okay, let's fire Billy Napier. Who you hiring?
So this is one of the biggest arguments I have with people is I think that is the most loser mentality you could have.
Well, I'm just saying, a question to them.
Yeah, I understand. But I hate that mentality so much because I agree. Like, I understand the concept of that mentality. Like, dude, we have a good coach. Who the hell are we going to hire? Bro, scrap that right now. If he isn't getting it done, it doesn't matter who you hire. You could hire Joe Schmo and it's going to be just the same. It doesn't matter. You got to go out there. You have to do what's best for the program. If he goes 6-6 this year, 6-6, no matter what your schedule is at the University of Florida, is unacceptable. And so I'm sorry you had a rough schedule. Welcome to the SEC, buddy. This is the new SEC. You're going to have a rough schedule every year. So if you can't get it done, we got to find somebody that can. And if it takes us 4 hires to find somebody, that's better than sticking with your ass for 10 years and being mediocre. So I know that that's the same thing Kentucky fans did. I did it too. When, talking about getting rid of John Calipari, and I'm like, dude, who are we going to get? And it's like, dude, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This doesn't work. We need to make a change until we find something that does.
And because the reason why I say that is because they are giving up on the season before it's even started. And my thing is that you can beat your chest all you want and say, we need to fire Billy Napier. Okay, if you're going to fire him, who are you going to hire? Because I look at
who they're going to hire. Who they're going to hire.
Oh yeah, I know who they're going to hire. Even though there's a couple of SEC people that disagree with me, but I have a shocking just a shocking hunch that I know who they're going to hire, and it'll be the wildest shit ever. The reason why I say that is because you want to fire Billy, but you don't have anybody to replace him, because the reason why I say that is because you look at what happened with Nebraska. Bo Pelini 10-2. They fired him, and then they went into the dark realm. And sometimes at a program, you reach a ceiling, like at a Penn State, like at a Nebraska, 10-2. We're going to a bowl game, going to a conference championship every other year. Why would we rock the boat? We're putting guys in the NFL. But instead, you get rid of Bo Pelini because you don't like his sideline behavior, and then you bring in Scott Frost, the chosen one, where he hogs the golf simulator, and you almost get beat by North Dakota at home, and have one of the worst offenses in the country. So that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't the first time Nebraska did that. I mean, Nebraska fired Frank Zolich. He was 9-3, 10-2, and then they got lucky with Bo Pelini, and it worked. And then they fired him for doing the exact same thing. However, I guess, I mean, that's just where you as a program have to decide. I mean, I don't think Florida's ever accepted or will accept that they are going to be a 9-3, 10-2 middle of the tier SEC school. That's not what they've ever been in the past 20 years. They've won national championships. They've competed for titles. They've competed for the SEC championship all the time. That's just not an acceptable level for them. And if Billy Napier was going to go 10-2 this year or 9-3, he would have his job. But there's a little difference between going 10-2 Bo Pelini style or going 6-6 at Florida.
And
so, but I mean, maybe you hire somebody that does just as bad, but it can't get much worse, right?
Right. And the reason why I posed that is because Florida State is really good right now.
And they weren't for a while.
They probably had their longest longevity of being relevant. I know they had a dip after Jimbo left there for a little bit. They
had a dip years. With Jimbo towards the end, I think, and then Willie Taggart. I mean, they really weren't. Late 90s, they were super relevant. Early 2000s, relevant. After that, not so relevant. And then Jimbo took over for aging Bobby Bowdy, got him back to relevance in the 2010s, and then kind of dipped off. So, I mean, they've been a relevant program over the past 30, 40 years for sure.
And I think it doesn't help that, Mike Norvell is probably a top 10 coach in the country right now. And
funny you should say that. But yeah, I agree. He absolutely is, which I mean, kind of jumps into where I wanted to go with. They released, CBS Sports released, the top coaches in the Power Five.
I have not seen that, but
yeah. So I wanted to touch on it a little bit because I think it's interesting. And I'm interested kind of the fans' perspective and your perspective, and kind of so last year on this list, Marcus Freeman was number 38 out of the top 50, which, I mean, he was going into year 2, a very big unknown, obviously. This year he's jumped up to number 24. So big jump for him, which is great. But I'm just going to run through top 25 real quick and see what you think. So number 1, Kirby Smart.
Can't argue.
Obvious. Yeah, obvious. Number 2, Ryan Day.
Can't
number
argue.
3, Dabo Sweeney.
Ma?
4, Brian Kelly. 5, Steve Sarkisian. 6, Kyle Whittingham. 7, Kalen DeBoer. 8, Mike Norvell. 9, Dan Lanning. 10, Lincoln Riley. 11, James Franklin.
He's got a good agent.
12, Lance Leopold from Kansas. 13, Chris Kleinman from Kansas State. 14, Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. 15, Mike Gundy from Oklahoma State. 16,
I'm a man of 40.
16, Dave Doreen from North Carolina State. 17, Luke Fickell from Wisconsin.
What?
18, Kirk Ferentz, Iowa. 19, Jeff Brom, Louisville. 20, Mark Stoops, Kentucky. 21, Eli Drinkowitz, Missouri. 22, Sonny Dykes, TCU. 23, Josh Heupel, Tennessee. 24, Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame. 25, Matt Campbell, Iowa State. What do you think about that?
I think that list, like, you have Mr. Family. You have.
I can't argue with him. I can't argue with that one. I really want to, as a Notre Dame person. I really want to argue with that one, but I can't. He's successful. He's been successful. I get it. You got to have him up there. I mean, I might have him.
How do you?
No, I don't even know. Anyways, no, I don't know who I'd have him below. Honestly, like what? Sark? Sark hasn't done shit.
Sark is. I think this is the big year for Sark because if he doesn't get it done, they're gonna. I think Texas moves on.
Probably. But yeah, like if you look for Brian Kelly, then you got Sark, Whittingham, DeBoer, Norvell, Lanning, Riley, Franklin. Like everybody below him hasn't accomplished what he's accomplished. So I can't put him any higher. Or I can't put him any lower. Like they haven't even been. I mean, Sark and DeBoer have been to the playoff and been to a natty, which Brian has, but he's done it multiple times. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's. Let another year go by and we can table that discussion because when it comes to coaching rankings, I like to look at it as a projection. Where was the program at when you took it over, and which way is it trending? Because Lance Leopold at Kansas, he got them to invest $490 million into football.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude is winning at KU. And
I think he's a top 10 coach probably.
And he beat Oklahoma last year, Dylan Gabriel and Venables.
So my biggest question is, Marcus Freeman's at 24 on this list. Is that too high or too low?
Well, you had said it earlier. When it comes to where Marcus Freeman is ranked on this list, it's one of those I don't care how rough the waters are, bring in the damn ship. That's what it is for Billy Napier. That's what it is for Marcus Freeman. And that's what it's going to continue to be when you have a fan base and now that you have a 12-team playoff. Because I was thinking about this. Could you imagine one weekend you could have a college football playoff game hosted by the University of Notre Dame, which is north of the Mason-Dixon, and you could have another one hosted by Ohio State. So it would be an incredible time for not just Big Ten schools, but for just the North in general. Because I think that's why seeding is going to come into a huge factor in it, because you could have some of those kids from Mississippi that have never seen snow before.
Oh yeah,
and you
for sure. Unfortunately for Ohio State, they're going to play it at Lucas Oil, so they're never going to see snow anyways. But at least that's what Gene Smith said. I guess maybe Bjork will change that for you, but Gene Smith wants to play it at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis so that nobody has to get cold.
Gene.
But anyways, I will tell you. So here I'm gonna tell you what I think on this Marcus Freeman, 24th in the nation head coach. Number one, I haven't looked up all these people's salaries. I know what Marcus Freeman's salary is. First of all, I found this out today because they file their taxes or whatever, and it comes out. So Marcus Freeman made 6.7, I believe it is, 6.7 million last year, which is, I mean, right in line with a top tier program. A little light, honestly. However, Tommy fucking Reese made
Oh no.
$1.886 million as offensive coordinator. Dude, that guy was robbing us. Like, what are we doing here? You gotta. That's just wrong.
You can.
Anyway, sorry.
The thing with Tommy was there's a lot of people that like Tommy.
Yeah, he played quarterback for Notre Dame. A lot of people like him, but he's a. He's with my Browns now, dude. So he's a great coach.
Well, just don't let him call plays, and I think you'll be
no.
okay.
He's gonna coach tight ends, I believe.
Yeah, what are you gonna tell David to do?
Njoku, go play.
Yeah.
Just go out there and be fucking nuts. All right. So Marcus Freeman, 24. Sorry, I want to get back. Marcus Freeman's better coach than Josh Heupel. Don't care. Sonny Dykes, I'll give him a pass because he's at TCU and did well. Drinkowitz, better. Mark Stoops, okay. Jeff Brom, better. Kirk Ferentz, we know what he is, better. Luke Fickell, not yet. I think he's better, but not yet. Dave Doreen at North Carolina State, better. Mike Gundy, better. Lane Kiffin, not better. Chris Kleiman, not better. Lance Leopold, not. So I really think that Marcus Freeman should be like 16, 17 with Fickell and Sonny Dykes and maybe Stoops above him. But I think he's a top 15 coach. I think that's accurate.
Here's an interesting caveat to that. I think all the guys outside of the top 5, I don't think anybody outside the top 5 has any natties from top 5 to 25.
No, everybody outside the top 3 has 0 natties.
So I don't think anybody's ahead of Mr. Family. Now,
no, Brian Kelly's been the closest to a natty that doesn't have one. Yeah,
Dabo's got rings, so it exempts him. So
yeah, that's why he's 3.
We can.
There's only hold on. I need to make sure this is correct before I say this. There are only 2 coaches in. No, this can't be right. There are only 2 coaches in the top 25 that have a natty.
Yeah. You got to think.
It's just Kirby and Dabo.
Because you got to think Saban's retired. Saban won what, 6 at Bama?
Yeah.
Saban won if you gauge it back from like 2012 to now.
Ryan doesn't have a natty. Brian Kelly doesn't have a natty. Sark doesn't. Whittingham doesn't. DeBoer doesn't. Norvell doesn't. Lanning doesn't. Lincoln doesn't. Franklin. Holy shit! Are there only 2 head coaches in all of college football that have a natty right now?
And they both have multiple.
Wait, is that real?
Yeah.
There's not another head coach at any program that has a natty. Holy shit, dude. That's wild. That's insane.
That's why that was
Harbaugh would be the
because it goes Harbaugh
Urban.
And you have Urban's out.
Yeah, Urban's out.
That's why I brought up the youth movement in college football.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. There's only 2 coaches in all of college football that have won a national championship. Wow.
And
that's crazy.
I think you take all those guys that are outside of the top 5 or the top 4, you can include Dabo and Mr. Family.
I'm not including Brian Kelly. No, fuck them. They don't have a shot.
So, if you include all those guys together, all them guys looking at it on paper or to a novice person that doesn't pay attention to this, in May and June and July,
Mhm.
Those guys are all relatively equal, and they're vying for the same thing.
Oh, outside of the top 4 is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Is that because I think, yeah. Well, I don't know if they're all relative. So I would say there's a class. So here's your. I'll break it into 3 classes: Kirby Smart, Dabo Sweeney, Brian Kelly is, I guess, class 1.
And Ryan
But
Day.
then, no, I'm gonna put him in class 2, and this is why.
He doesn't have an natty.
Brian Kelly hasn't. Brian Kelly doesn't either, but Brian Kelly is more old school and has been more successful over a longer period of time, I guess. But then I think there's a very clear class 2, which is Ryan Day, Sarkisian, DeBoer, Norvell, Lanning. Maybe Lincoln Riley. I might include him too.
I'd put Kyle in there from Utah.
Whittingham. No, Kyle Whittingham's been there too long. He's not going to win anything. He's just a good coach.
But he beat
he's not really
when he needed to.
Yeah, I know, but he's not really a threat. But I mean, I get it. Okay, so we can do that. We can go Ryan, Sark, Kyle, DeBoer, Norvell, Lanning, Riley. That's class 2. And then you have everybody else, which is Franklin, Leopold, Lane Kiffin. I think Marcus Freeman, I think Ferentz and Brom and Stoops are kind of on the outside looking in. Fickle's in that group. But yeah, I think there's a 3-tier system where I think Ryan Day in that tier is very close to being on the same level as Kirby. Really just Kirby. Dabo and Brian Kelly don't threaten me at all. But those guys that have done it before, those guys that have been there, those guys that have, shown success. You got your younger group like Ryan, DeBoer, Norvell, Lanning that are about to break into that group. And then you have everybody else just trying to get a piece.
And I almost feel like there's a lot of these younger guys are pushing hard. The Ryan Days of the world, the Dan Landings.
Oh, absolutely.
They're grinding right now because college football to seize I would say the throne.
Mm-hmm.
It's open because Saban retired.
Yeah. Saban retiring really opened it up for sure.
If you go back and look at the natties that Saban could have won.
Oh yeah.
Because if he doesn't run into a buzzsaw that is Florida,
if he doesn't run into probably one of the best offenses and programs in all of college football that was just on a heater in Ohio State in 2014.
Probably wins another one there.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely does. He beats the shit out of Oregon.
So they pounded Oregon, and the 2 that slipped away with Georgia. Mm-hmm. So Saban could have ended up with 10 natties.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he definitely could have, but I mean that has opened up a vacuum, which is why you saw Ohio State do what they did in the transfer portal and with NIL. Is they saw a vacuum open up and they want to be the ones to fill it. And so if Ryan Day can position himself well, if Ryan Day wins a national title this year, he could go on a run that would put him in the conversation with a Nick Saban. Because there's not going to be a Nick Saban to prevent him from going on that run. And there's not a program in the world that is positioned as well as Ohio State to do that, like Alabama was when Saban did it. It could be done. He just has to get that first one, just like Saban had to.
Here's the interesting caveat. Let's say Ryan Day wins a natty. Does he? Everybody says that he will not go to the NFL. I think he'll go to the NFL.
I think he waits.
You think so?
I think he is so ingrained into what's going on with college football right now, and just the way that he's involved. Because I mean, a lot right now because he brought in Chip Kelly to run the offense. He's involved in a lot of the academic or not the
NIL.
NIL and then the administrative side of things right now. And I think he is very involved in some high level conversations about the future of college football. And I think he wants to see that through because I think there's an opportunity that if everything goes the way that he thinks it might, or that he and Bjork and the guys are working towards, that it could be a very profitable venture for players, for coaches, and it could really set programs up that are on the forefront to run on historic runs. And so while he might want to go to the NFL eventually, I think he understands that this is at a tipping point in college football right now where there are going to be certain programs that benefit from the way the next 3 to 5 years go. And Ohio State is positioning themselves to be one of the programs that benefits. And if Ohio State benefits, the head football coach is going to benefit just as much. So I don't think he's going to bolt just yet unless something happens with that and with the revenue sharing and the potential changes to college football that goes negatively against what he wants. Then I think he might bolt. But as long as everything goes kind of in lockstep with what he wants it to do, I think he's here for the long haul.
100%. And I think we've almost taken everybody up to the schedule release in
oh yeah,
the schedule release, and I also think that I agree with you on that, the Ryan Day revenue sharing and things of that sort.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you finding your way on here. Hopefully I wasn't too boring for everybody for the first, little bit when I went on my little rant and everything like that. But I, appreciate everybody tuning in. Like and subscribe. Anybody that wants to, that's in Columbus or can make it to Columbus, Friday, 11 a.m. We're going to be at Yogi's on Hard Road. I'm going to be there. Pull up. Come see. Menace to Sports is going to be there doing a live show. So I'll be there hanging out. So come chill, come hang out, have a drink. Other than that, Duke, I appreciate you. And it was a good time talking.
No, I appreciate you. You can go ahead and end it. You're in charge today.
I'm in charge. So, all right, y'all. Have a good one.